Hey, hello everyone. Can you hear me? Perfect. My name is Moritz. I'm the president of the Young European Federalists, and I'm very happy that we are actually hosted here in the European Parliament. Some of our speakers are still dropping in, but I think it's already a good time to start our session. What you see here today is the result of almost a year of work, a year of volunteer work, a year of youth work, which we as a cooperation of the sections of JEF Germany, JEF Italy, and also JEF Europe have done in the past year, that has specifically intensified also around the question of what's the European perspective and what's especially the Federalist perspective on Israel and Palestine after the attacks of the 7th October. We are very grateful to Vice President Picierno, who hosts us here. Unfortunately, her flight is a little bit delayed, so we will, instead of opening remarks, have closing remarks from her side. I would now like to give the floor to Melanie Toot, who is the president of JEF Germany, and Cesare Ceccato, who is the international officer of JEF Italy, to give a bit more of a background what our project was about and is about.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Moritz, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. I'm Cesare Ceccato, International Officer for JEF Italy. And on the Italian side, we are deeply proud to be a part of this project because it started where all the most wonderful thing in Europe starts, which is Ventotene. There we had this first session of the Federalist Peace Forum, and it's a seminar based on the dialogue. We can imagine that via dialogue, people can build bridges, people can connect, people can really get into something new that can be stable during the years and the eras. We saw that via Europe, but federalism and communities, it's not something only related to Europe. We can imagine it also in the Middle East, and this project is something that can really get into it. I pass the ball to my colleague, Mathut, President of JEF Germany.
Yes, for me, just a very quick and practical remark. It's not the first thing that we are doing with the project. First of all, we were funded by the Council of Europe. So it's very important to stress this youth perspective. We have young people that we want to listen to and that want to build a new future. So this is why it's important. So then we went to the Italian Senate to present the results directly and to the German Bundestag. So here it's amazing to also see the member states. We have to involve every possible policymaker to talk about these projects and to meet as equals at the end of the day. And also the youth councils are interested in our work because it's a youth exchange, but not only, it's more because we have the political platform. The Federalist movement offers things beyond just exchange. It's a concrete project that we can work on and that we can now help our friends in the region also to follow. But we have to listen to them. So this is why this is it from our side.
Thank you, Melanie. And maybe one thing I want to share with you is our slogan of JEF is one generation ahead. And I also feel like in this sense, we are a bit of a generation ahead. We're talking about how can we actually abolish border checks in a region that is full of border checks. We are talking about how can we actually live together in peace, something that we really need to think about in the present, not only in the future. And you can only imagine how much tears and blood and whatever we went through the last days to actually get our friends from Israel and Palestine here. And hopefully back again for those that are here, yes. I am super happy that Nitzan got from the president of the Federal Future, Israel, is here with us and that he came a bit ahead of time. And I'm also very happy that I could pick up Yunus Al-Salman, the president of Democracy and Federalism Hub Palestine, at the station today. I still don't know how he managed to get out of Jordan today, but I'm super happy that he's here. And now I give over to Dvir, who is also in the board of Jeff Europe and has done amazing work with our task force, Global Federalism, on this topic. Thank you so much.
I also just want to acknowledge Danielle, who sits in the audience as well, and generally just to give you like the logistical background. So all three participants have very close family that are in the region that have to rush to the shelters in the middle of the night, every day, every hour of the day. And this is actually what's motivating us to continue this project, this resilience of them and their motivation, despite societal pressure and despite sometimes hostile governments. To continue being active and overcome these things with 60 hours of travel from Palestine to here. And I'm so happy you are here, Eunice, and all of you. And I think now we would like to, first of all, hear from our local activists about the project. Why was it interesting for you? Why was it different from other peace building projects? What have you done since the seminar in Ventotene? And what are your future steps and visions?
All right, thank you, Dvir. First of all, I want to acknowledge our amazing colleagues back in, especially mine, the Palestinian members of Democracy and Federalism Hub. The other three of us who couldn't make it, despite multiple attempts, and because of their dedication and passion, they didn't want to give up, and they're still trying. To answer your question, we have come a long way. We started the dream in 2024, inspired by Jeff and inspired by our local Palestinian Israeli Federalists, who wanted to create a movement. And we finally figured out how to create a movement. In the beginning, we thought, how do we create a parallel to the European Federalist movement? And then we started making calculations about all of the overlap, all of the, we started to connect the dots between the movement in Europe and what we should build in the Middle East, and especially in Palestine. And for me, in Palestine, the West Bank, and in Gaza as well. And also important to mention that we even have applications from Gazan youth who are interested in joining us nowadays, which is amazing. So in the beginning, we had, as Mel mentioned, we were able to create a seminar in Ventotene for Palestinian Federalists, young Palestinian Federalists, and young Israeli Federalists. And we didn't know what to exactly expect because this was an experiment. And in 4 days, we managed to create a platform. And we managed to come up with spontaneously a declaration, a political declaration that is brave for to consider coming out of young activists from Palestine and Israel. And then we came up with eventually with the movement. We came up with 2 organizations, one in Palestine, national organization in Palestine, not registered yet, and also an equivalent in Israel for young federalists, working closely with our European allies, and with the very little resources, a small amount of resources, we managed to pull together a lot of interest and a lot of excitement, which is really important because it's very difficult to get young people, especially professionals. I'm not even talking about peace builders or staff of other organizations who are specialized in this field, but normal professionals in Palestine, to get them interested in this line of work and interested in talking about a solution and talking about self-determination and bringing the actual work back to their hands is very difficult. So out of the project since September, we managed to pull together at least 4 workshops in training for leadership skills, persuasion in politics, for example, public speaking, and other important skills for people who would be and capacity building as well. And some of these with our European allies and also American allies in some of the sessions. And fast forward to the 2nd of March today, so much has been done, and it's only the beginning. This is supposed to be the closing event of our Federalist Peace Forum, but it's only the beginning, and we hope it's going to be. We're dreaming of bringing together hundreds in a few years, hundreds of alumni of our programs. Thank you.
Thank you much, Yunus, and all the Jeffers here, and thank you for hosting us here in the Parliament. I'm really excited to be here. So my name is Nitzan. I'm the president of Federalist Future and Federalist Future in Israel. I also will connect to Yunus' thing, but before I will say that I think it's saying a lot that we are here now in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of a war. Like our families are running for shelters like every hour or something like that, and we decided to be here in Brussels to have a different future for both sizes in this region and for other to come and to join. Again, I will say that in the last September we had this seminar, this Ventotene seminar. Both me and Yunus were in a lot of seminars for peace activists with Israelis and Palestinians, but this was different because from the first moment we had this real good connection between ourselves. We went to, I don't know, to swim and party and everything, but also like a good connection between us. But also we had this political declaration. We went to the Senate in Rome, and we had this Ventotene Declaration that we sang. Also, it was before the ceasefire, so we said that we need a ceasefire, we need to end the Gaza war, but also to have this federalist future in both Israel and Palestine. And from that moment, we grew really fast. We have now around 40, 50 members in Israeli side and also in the Palestinian side. We did a lot of workshops in Israel. It's really hard to do it in Israel right now. The current political situation is not that in favor for these workshops and everything, but we succeeded to bring young people again to have this thinking about another solution, another vision to the region. We also had workshops with Alexander Schussman. Thank you very much. We had recently, last week in East Jerusalem, he hosted us very nicely, and we had this charter. We can share with you in a moment. 6 pages of charter about, again, the federalist future that we imagine in Israel, Palestine, and more countries to join in the region. And again, I think to be here and also the connection with Europe, with Jeff Europe, but also the vision of Europe, or we also always see like how Europe did this change from World War, millions of people who are dead, millions of people that was murdered, was killing. And from that moment to have this amazing parliament, to have this amazing European Union. So we really can see like a better future that also we can have in the Middle East region. And it's really, it's I don't know, it's hard to imagine it now with all this war happening and everything. But we are visionary, but we are also hoping that we'll be fast. So we're doing our best to do it as much as fast as we can. And again, we need your help. We need your connection. We need your support. Thank you very much.
Yes, I would like to add, what we're trying to do is based on experience with our local societies. It's even though we have like high expectations and high ambitions, but what we're trying to do is built on studying what has been happening on the ground and similar experiences, and our ambition to do even better, much better. Our ambition is to create something sustainable for young people in the 20s and 30s to be actually involved in making and shaping the country's future and our country's future. So I just want to add to what you said, Nitzan, even though it sounds wonderful, but it's also based on a lot of experience.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we, of course, are very, very happy that policymakers like you, members of parliament, elected representatives, and Alexander Stuttman, representative of the EU to the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, have come here to listen to us. It's not something to take for granted that you made time in the middle of your very busy and long days to listen to a bunch of young activists coming from the region. And we are very, very interested in hearing your input and your opinions and your thoughts about where the situation is going and how can we go forward. So we have maybe some guiding questions, and then we would really love to get your interventions. So one question that we want to ask is, and this is something that we are thinking a lot about as European Federalists, is that we feel European voice is very rarely heard when it comes to the conflict. European foreign policy is very fragmented, and it's unclear what's the path that Europe wants to chart in a world where international law is becoming less and less relevant, as we saw with the US intervention in Venezuela, and as we are seeing also now with the new regional war that just broke out. We want also to know how can we move beyond binary solutions, like for example, binary one-state or binary two-state solutions towards a more holistic approach vis-a-vis the Middle Eastern conflict. And also on the more political policymaker level, how do you think we can empower youth voices to be more prominent when it comes to peace building and specifically within the European Parliament and other European institutions? So again, we are very happy to have all of you here, and we will start with MEP Hildegard Bentele from the EPP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for all the work you have done in the last year. And also thanks to our colleagues from the Commission and the Parliament who made all this possible. I think that's absolutely amazing. I didn't have the time now to read your charter, unfortunately. That was too abrupt now. But I think what we can talk about, and this is I did on many occasions, and this is also very dear to me because, as you said, you did this in September, but we have entered a different stage in the meantime, gladly. All the hostages are free, and we are hopefully stepping in the second phase of the peace plan, which means reconstruction, which also still means, demilitarization of Hamas, which is not yet there. So the terror threat is still there. And also a very bad future in the Gaza Strip is still, on the horizon. I think we are all aware of that. But on the other hand, we cannot wait until everything, is cleared out. And I think it's very important that we rely on civil society because, during 2 years, I think there was a lot of silence between the people and also between the young people. And I think it's now time to catch up and to build this fundament again. Whatever comes out of that, I think even, European Federalists are very visionary in Europe. And I have to admit, I'm more skeptical in this regard because I do not believe in a federalist government which should, govern whole Europe and dissolve the national governments. No, I don't believe in this vision. compliment, whatever. I'm more skeptical in this regard, but it doesn't matter. I think what matters is what we learn about, what you could learn from our European, history of reconciliation and of building institutions which prevent that war breaks out again. I think this is the crucial lesson which we can draw. And this field of cooperation and this, this market, but also this space of democracy and of freedom and mainly for young people of movement. I myself participated 2 times in European programs. Once I studied a year in Paris and I studied a year in Brussels. And that's very, very important. And I think nowadays, many, many young people, it's very normal that you spend a year abroad. It just, is part of the experience. And I think this shapes future Europeans and it's extremely important. But this fight is never won, as we can see. And I think Hannah will agree with me. If you look into our parliament, you were asking, what's the role of Europe in the region, and I can just agree that it's we are bystanders very often because we cannot agree. We don't have a united position there. So the work goes bilaterally, with Germany, with Italy, I don't know, with Hungary. So it's always, it's not what we should do, but that's the situation. Sometimes we cannot agree amongst Europeans. It's not possible. What did I want to say? But I think we should, help you to do this work and to have this vision to get to know each other, to meet. I think this is the most important thing. If you meet, all the stereotypes, all the bad ideas, will disappear. And I think we have a big danger also nowadays, and this was also, shown very clearly in the last 2 years. We get a lot of through information, through our phones. And I remember even colleagues citing, you have everything on your phone, what's happening in the region. I cannot disagree more than that, because this is very, targeted information, a lot of disinformation. So I think I fully insist you can build up just a new community or a new space if you meet in person, because this building of trust, if you once sit, face to face to each other, that's completely different than if you comment on Twitter or if you repost and you incite for hatred. And these are spirals we should refrain from. So I fully support people-to-people contacts, civil society, and first and foremost, and this is why I'm in politics, I am a mom of 2 kids, for future generations, because you should have a better future. And I am very unhappy that we have a war on the European continent now, that my son will have to serve the army, most probably defend European values with blood and weapons. So obviously something you have been through. I thought we are, beyond that, but we are not. So that means this peace and these arrangements, what we have, they're never guaranteed. You have to fight for it every day. But I think it's great that you take up this fight. And only last week I had a chance to, in the aftermath of my visit last October, where we also met NGOs, a young person who is establishing We Are MENA. So that goes even, in the broader region, he wants to establish, bring in, more exchange and even a broader picture. But I think to start with Israel and Palestine is very crucial and very important. And I mean, we see now, and that was also very impressive for me, if I saw the demonstrations in Berlin from the Iranians, there were, Israeli flags with and American flags. So it is a broad movement which comes up, from the bottom, which connects people, which connects the young generation. And what I've seen in the last days from Israel, a lot of, comments, be courageous. We both have, airplanes flying above our heads, but be courageous and fight your fight until the very end. And I think this is a very inspiring message. And I hope one day also Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, which still suffer under the Hamas rule, will also be, capable to choose their exchanges and their freedom. But thanks a lot for this first step. And I'm very, very open to support everything you do in this regard. Also, I'm elected in Berlin, which is also a hot spot in terms of Israel and Palestine relations. I'm pretty glad to support everything, and I think Hannah is on the same page with me, also coming from Berlin in this regard. Thanks.
Thank you. So the same questions to Hannah Neumann from the Socialists and Democrats group.
Almost, I'm from the
Green.
Greens.
Sorry.
But the Socialist Democrats will also be here in a second. Don't worry. Sometimes it's the positions that matter more than the political parties, actually. I've been looking forward this meeting for quite some time, and especially today, where, I mean, we are not running from shelter to shelter, but we are also running, I think, from bad news to bad news. And in my case, also from interview to interview, trying to make sense for people here what this means, which is not very easy. So I'm very happy I am here, but I will also have to leave at 7. I mean, you came here in the European Parliament, and I guess you are all aware of what the, let's say, motto of the European Union is. It's united in diversity. And I think this is extremely beautiful. And when I look at the situation in the Middle East right now, it is something that maybe one day it could also work there, because it means that people can keep their identity and they can even keep their narrative. So you don't have to become something else, but still you can find ways and means to deal with conflict on a negotiation table, and that you can gain so much from cooperation rather than conflict and fighting. And that's kind of the whole idea of this European Union, where the Second World War was the most devastating war that this continent has ever seen. And then look at where we are now. And it was never, you know, just like a political declaration. It was always leaders who dared and people who lived it. And that's why I think what you're doing here is quite impressive, and I just want you all to succeed. I was the chair of the delegation for relations with the Arabian Peninsula, so with the Gulf countries in my previous term. And whenever we visited in the Gulf, and that was, for example, at the times of the rift between Qatar and Saudi and UAE, people said, we're looking up to what you did as the European Union, and we are trying to do that with the GCC, so the Gulf Cooperation Council. We are far from there, but actually this idea of having all these also economic benefits, but especially all these benefits for the citizens from not having borders, from not having these fights, and from just being together, we totally see that. And I can also understand why this idea is interesting for you, but also your idea is interesting for us, because I mean, we here in this parliament, we continuously say we stand with the two-state solution. We said that for the last 10 years, and we will have to say it as long as we come up with something better, although we know quite well that kind of reality has overtaken us on this one. I mean, it's just a reality. We can still continue to proclaim the two-state solution because there is no better resolution, no better text, but we all know in reality it will be almost impossible to implement it, and every day it gets more and more impossible, and I don't like that, but it's something we have to deal with it. And that is why everybody who dares to think about alternative options is very, very welcome, especially if that daring comes with sitting together. Because I don't need like one group from this side or one group from that side tell me that's the solution. What we need is groups that bring together people from both sides, and then also out of the box, bring us out of the box ideas. And you asked me, how can we empower young people? Well, with meetings such as this, I think that's a step, but then also bringing your ideas to the discussions that we are having, but also staying in continuous exchange. And I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for forcing us to think out of the box, which is what you do. And I mean, this idea of, for me, this idea of the federal, also European Union, and on that one, I think so far we are all on the same page. On that one, we may differ a little. I think if the European Union really wants to solve the problems that we are facing and continue to play a role in the world as it is right now, the federal solution would be a very good one that helps us to get there. I would have one question to you, actually, because Hilde said it, even in this house where we are all safe, where very few of us actually have stakes with family members and everything in this region, even we often fail to bridge the gaps between people who stay on one side and people who stay on the other side. Even inside our political group, sometimes we kind of reenact this whole conflict. And I can tell you it is very frustrating. So that you manage to bridge these gaps, could you give us like 3 advices on how this is being done? And then just one last point, because right now I'm the chair of the delegation for relations with Iran. And when, like before you leave, we put some bags there that are like solidarity for the women in Iran. If you want to take some, take some. If you don't. But it felt like something that may make sense to wear these days. So thank you for coming. And I hope I could give you some kind of answers.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we will have another opportunity after hearing your interventions to hear the leaders of both groups. So hopefully they can answer your very important question. Now we move to Alexander Stutzman, the representative to the West Bank and Gaza. And he actually already had some interactions with the local groups and kindly invited them to a strategy day in Jerusalem, which is actually a very rare opportunity for Palestinians to get permits and come to Jerusalem, and even hosted them in his residence. So thank you so much, and I'm very much looking forward to your insights.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dvir, and good evening, everyone. And thank you to Mrs. Bentele and to Hannah Neumann for being with us tonight. I think it's important because it shows that in its diversity, Parliament, in the variety of the political groups and the personalities within those political groups, I mean, is actually on the same page when it comes to support initiatives like the one that you have, that you are presenting, that you're embodying, and that you're presenting. It's great that you are here, that you made it. I know we've been in touch over the last few days since once more in our beloved region, the world took another turn as of Saturday morning. It made it difficult for you to be here. I wish the others who were attempting to come as well would be here, because it would give even more of a diversity and would give a chance also to people here. But I guess we'll get there in the future, because this is just a start. I came across your initiative, and again here I'm not looking at it as a federal movement. It's not the idea. I mean, I think it's one solution, it's one creative solution that you're putting on the table. Federalist thinks it's a great solution, others think it's less of a great solution. I think what is good in that solution is that it is, first of all, people, second, young people, from two societies that have been pushed further away from each other over the last 20 years, that are actually taking the initiative to say, no, we don't want this. We want to meet. We don't want others from elsewhere to decide on our future. We don't want even some of the people in place in our respective systems that have been around for too long to decide on our future. But we want, as a young society, as the generation of tomorrow, and I mean, Israel and Palestine are young society, Palestine even more than Israel. I mean, 60% of young Palestinians are under the age of 30. That's a significant amount of people. And this is you. This is what you represent in the room. And you've decided in these difficult times we're in, where not only people don't talk to each other, but people fear each other on both sides for maybe legitimate reasons. And events over the last 2.5 years have not helped. On the contrary. But you said, notwithstanding this, We want to stick together and we want to try to build something together which determines our future. And it was said here, it's great to meet online, it's great to meet separately and discuss. It's a challenge to come together. And it's a challenge to, first of all, confront each other and decide to face each other. That creates, of course, those in-person links that go far beyond the contents of what you discuss. And I think when I met you and when we were sitting together in Jerusalem a week ago, some of you were telling the story. There were many more of them. There were like, we were a group of 20 plus people, which also makes it impressive. You see, there's a critical mass. I mean, and there's also a lot of women, young women in the movement, which I think is also significant on both sides. And you can be veiled or not veiled. It doesn't matter. It's not the issue. They were all there for the same reason. And one even said, was telling the story that something really unpleasant happened to her family, one of the Palestinian delegates. And that made her question, why am I doing this actually? Because the system around me, the occupation that happens where I live doesn't actually go the way I want. And then she thought, she said, I completely changed again when I was with the group and I felt the empathy also from the Israeli delegates in the group about what had happened to her, to her grandmother, to the family. I think it happened at a checkpoint. It was one of the incidents. And she said that gave me even more of a willingness to push this forward because I felt supported not only by my people, but also from the other side. And I think this is what you're conveying. And the fact that you devote time and energy. The first time we met was a few weeks ago. Some of you came from Haifa. Some of you came from Jenin. In normal circumstances, Jenin, Haifa would be an hour drive, or even less, much less. I mean, you basically left respectively the night before in order to be able to meet in Beit Jala, which is in Area B, where both Israelis and Palestinians can come together. Basically spending a lot of time just as you guys did to come over here because you wanted to be together, you wanted to devote your free time and your energy to that. We managed to have you over in Jerusalem last week. And again here, I mean, somebody said it, I think you said it, the context isn't really favorable these days to initiatives like yours. And nevertheless, Kogat gave us the permits. I mean, they mixed up the dates, but let's put that on the technical issue. But they gave you the permits to come over. Now, in an ideal world, there wouldn't be any permits. You would be able to meet, but they gave you. So that means there are people also in the system who support this kind of initiative of bringing you together. And as European Union, we may be fragmented, as you said, in the outcome or in the lack of outcome of our policy. But there's one thing that is very clear. We're committed to young people. We're committed to people coming together and overcoming differences and dialoguing in order to do that, and possibly coming to an outcome like this one. So we lock you in a room and you come out with an outcome, and that worked. And you didn't need any mediation for that to happen.
It's the same thing in the parliament.
Right? It's like urgency resolution, in a way. But yeah, and so that's how we managed to do that. You managed to do that. And we support a lot of these initiatives. We're supporting them for the last 30 years. I mean, more institutionalized ones, NGOs and others. But I think when it comes from really deep-rooted civil society, young people, who all of you have other lives and other things to do, but you're doing this, it's the duty for us as European diplomats to support this. And when I speak we here, it's not just me representing the EU in the Palestinian territories. It's exactly the same position of my counterpart representing the EU in Israel, sitting in Tel Aviv. And it's the same position of all the EU member states, the 26 who are present in Tel Aviv, and the 22 who are my colleagues from member states present in Jerusalem covering the Palestinian territories. And you will meet them and we will continue engaging with you. You have to grow. We want you to grow. Not because you're federalists, but because you're young people who take their future in their hands and are coming with a constructive solution, which is the result of a negotiation, of a discussion, and of a trust feeling that you're creating. And if you can come up with a model that works better than the models that we have been promoting for the last 30 years, and we all know the limitations of those models, be my guest.
defreeze the 14 million euros of bilateral aid, which goes into civil society cooperation?
We have done this with 15,000 so far.
Being able to be here and be with us, I mean, in the end, we hope that there could be a little bit more of a predictable financing that goes on this. But members of parliament who are the budget authority here will also push for that, I'm confident.
Thank you. We have another surprise and welcome guest. So Nicola Zingaretti is also here, and we are very interested to also your intervention as a member of the European Parliament of the Socialist Group. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for your commitment for this event, for your idea as Federalist movement. I believe that is very interesting and very useful in this moment in the world. I want to tell just one thing. The characteristic of the conflict in Middle East is clear that is change. But the most important, but even worse, the situation around the Middle East is change. This is the biggest problem that we have. After the Second World War, there was a multipolar system, an imperfect balance in the world. After the 1945, we had the United Nations, we had the liberal democracy, we had a multi-European Atlantic alliance. There was, behind the Berlin Wall, some communist regime. I didn't believe in this regime, but there was an imperfect order in the world. And the basis of this order was national interest and values. Now, the situation is absolutely different. There is not balance anymore. We are in the middle of the chaos in the world. Also for this reason, the situation is in the Middle East is became more and more dramatic because we don't have any kind of balance. But in this moment, not in these days, in this moment, we don't know what's happened, what will happen in this world. There is not balance, and there are some strong countries that want to do what they want to do in the world. They have the powers, they use their economic powers, they use their military force and military powers, they use the digital AI force for their influence. Also in this moment, in these minutes, in the Iran scenario, we have to know that before we had the democracy, we had the United Nations, we had the values. Now we have the digital powers in the world. They want to decide who is good and who is bad. And a phase that began after the Second World War is coming to a close. And this is very dangerous. It's dangerous for the Middle East, for the actor in Middle East, but I'm afraid it's dangerous also for this building, for the future of Europe, for the future of the European Union. And also, I am Italian, it's very dangerous also for the national democracy. And we live in this moment. Why are important the idea of the Federalist movement? Because I believe that the only solution is to have a stronger Europe in this moment, a stronger democracy values in this moment. And the Europe is the only global actor that can defend these values. In fact, Elon Musk, Bezos, Donald Trump, etc., etc., etc. For them, we are the first enemy. There are a lot, they have a lot of enemy, but we are the first enemy of this culture that want to destroy what we have knew after the Second World War. I repeat, are very positive your idea, because we must have a stronger Europe, because for my opinion is the only hope. But the current European governments want the stronger Europe in this moment. I don't believe it. I don't think so. For this reason, it's very important that the people start to speak, to meet, to create a new phase of the federalist European political fight, because this is the only way to save our democracy here and to give in the world one democratic actor to help who in the Middle East, but also in other regions, want to continue to live in the peace, in the democracy, and with the values that put in the center of the development the human dignity. Because the risk is that we live in the moment where this human dignity can be cancelled. And this is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now give the floor again to the two local leaders, maybe to take like 1 to 2 minutes each just to respond to the discussion took place. And then we would also love it if you, the MEPs and the representative would be up to take pictures with them before you have to leave. And then maybe we can continue with a short Q&A with the people who can stay. So maybe now Nitzan will start.
So thank you very much for your kindly words, everyone. I think you touched the main issues. So what we're trying to do is to meet as much as we can, like from both sides. We see that the thing that's happening is when we meet personally and not online and not texting or anything. When we met in Ventotene, so we succeeded to do the declaration, but we succeeded to know each other more, to talk about the narratives of each other, to talk about the problems, the issues. And when we met last week in East Jerusalem, also we managed to sign these 6 pages that we gave you already, and that's what we need. We need this as much as possible time and place and space to meet. If it's in Europe, if it's in Bejala, if it's in East Jerusalem, I think this is the most important thing, that, like you say, that to meet as much as we can and to dream together and to have a vision together. And this is maybe the answer for your question. Like, if we meeting together, if we dreaming together, if we do it also in a political way with a declaration and signing it and having this concrete vision and dream, so we can do it, and we can bring more and more people. But I will say that it's true that both societies are really paralyzed and are really was in despair and everything from the three and more years of war now. But I think that the young people need like a better future, or at least not to go back to the 6th of October and not to go back to the status quo that we had. This, every 2 years war with Gaza or other place. And I think this is how we bring the young people now, because we can have like a solution, like a thing to show them. And I think young people from both society wants to meet or wants to dream about a better future. So.
Right. I want to start from build on what Mr. Nicholas Ingridi said. I just want to point out that This is a very important conversation that is often or almost never brought to political circles. One of the foundations the intellectual foundations that our movement is built on is the notion that Europe's security is tied to our region's security. It's inseparable. If we have war in the Middle East, we are unfortunately going to have war everywhere else, and it can be connected to the same malicious actors. Also something that Mrs. Neumann hinted at. So it's when our European allies engage with us, it's not only for the sake of Palestine and Israel, it's also for the sake of Europe. And this is something that I want all of us to think about. Freedom and occupation and human dignity. On both sides, it helped legitimize it in the eyes of our new participants, not just our members. And so one of the answers is to empower us, to help us meet, not just in Palestine and Israel, also Europe, help us engage with our counterparts in Europe, with our allies. And I'm going to give a simple example. The charter that we wrote, the Federalist Charter, wouldn't have been possible without Robin Murdy's support, with Roa and Yair from both our groups, the Palestinians and the Israelis, where they worked relentlessly together on creating this peace, because we don't do pointless interaction. As I mentioned previously, we have learned a lot of lessons from other programs. There's about 190 peace building related organizations that currently work in Israel and Palestine. And we only have to think about the outcome. How do we learn lessons and how do we do better? So one of the ways with which to help for the European Union is to empower us. The second is to think of sustainable, make it sustainable, help us make it sustainable. The third is to learn from the lessons of the past and move forward and think innovatively, think creatively. We can always learn from the past. Like our whole movement it's not completely crazy because we're building on Oslo and we're trying to do even better and we're trying to enhance the status quo. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we know, some of you might have to leave. We were hoping that you would agree to take a pictures with the local representatives. So maybe Nitzan, Yunus, you can move there, and then we can take some more. Sorry. How did you imagine it, Moritz? You are the one with the aesthetic style.
No. If you go over there, Nitzan, and
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Yunus, and then we join you after
Yeah, then
from
we
the
join you
European
after,
side. Yes.
from the organ- Okay.
And also,
Okay. So we do the pictures, and then maybe we can do the Q&A a bit.
okay, I just heard that Vice President Pina Picierno is also arriving every minute, so we can do the picture together, and then we follow up with her after.
Yes, of course.
Is that a count here? No, I think you have.
Thank you so much.
We would love to Thank you so much. Yeah. So do you think we should give her the option to do remarks and then Q&A, or first Q&A and then her remarks? What do you think is best?
Like the lesson closing and so on. Things that people are not gonna answer.
Exactly. So So Moritz can make everyone sit down. Yeah. Yes. Hi everybody. So we would appreciate if all of you can sit down again so we can move on. How far is she? Okay, so then we start with Q&A, I guess. Okay.
Everybody back.
Yeah,
Okay, please sit down again.
No? Yes. Everybody, please sit down. Please sit down. The session is not over yet. I want this thing, you know. Yeah, I used to have it for MUN sessions. Good.
Okay, so we would now open the floor for a few questions, either to Mr. Stutzmann or Mrs. Bentele, or to our activists.
Yeah.
And
Collect them. Maybe we can collect them because we don't have a lot of time. We have 10 minutes.
yes. Is there anyone in the room who would like to ask a question, either to our activists or to some of the speakers? And we will have around 7 to 10 minutes left. And if there's any questions.
Sorry.
Draculis? You can use the microphone.
The microphone. I would like to ask Ms. Bentele mostly that you stressed out how important it is for the people to meet and to get this approach with each other. it's very important for the NGOs who do that work, like Jeff and our partners in Israel and Palestine, that there is access to some funding to do that. And lately, the parliament has been kind of restrictive and opening investigations on NGO funding. So what would you say, as yourself and to your colleagues as well, to these people who are kind of making our work more difficult in this sense, I would say?
Maybe more questions, and then we can just answer them concentrated. Yes, Sarah, please.
Hello, Sarah, journalist from Focus Europe. I have two questions. One is for Ms. Bentele, and the other one is for the activists. So the first one is, at which point are we with the association agreement suspension? And the parliament is taking some initiatives to stress it a bit more, since it was approved by the parliament, but the council is silent. Like, what will be the idea? Because today I was at the press conference in the midday briefing, and there was a lot of talking from the Commission, but actually they said that, of course, they are with international law, but no one is now criticizing, for example, Israel for what it's doing. And I think that also it's important for the EU to have maintained the face in saying also what is not fair according to international law. And so I was wondering whether the Parliament is working on stressing more and putting again on the table the suspension of the association agreement between EU and Israel. And the other question is for Younes and Nitzan. If you can tell us more concretely, what are you doing exactly now with the associations in Palestine and in Israel? Thank you.
Any further questions? Yes, please.
Yes, I would just, Marco Meyer, I teach in Rome, but I've been working on the conflict since 91, so it's a long story. On my experience, the question of security is really a key question, because there is fear on both sides, a lot of fear. I was in the area in December. So what I would like from you now or in the next weeks to discuss, building up on Ambassador Stutzman, of which kind of confidence building measures, including policing and including hard kind of questions, we could try to experiment. Because one thing is the vision, and this is, shared values, shared interests, and so on. But another thing, because there will be a transition in Iran, which we don't know now in what direction exactly, but from Gaza disarmament on one side and West Bank stopping of all the question of annexation, these 2 points need a quick response, I think.
Thank you. Maybe one last question, if anybody wants. Yes, Danielle, please.
Hello, Daniel from the Israeli Federalist. I have a question more about the political aspects. It will be quite a direct one. In the Israeli political system, the division between right-wing and left-wing mostly talks about the national level in terms of like peace between Israel and Palestine. And it's bring me a lot of hope, in a way to hear, like someone who describes herself as right-wing talking so openly about peace. And I will dare to ask, how can you break the barriers in the Israel politics in those terms of like being able to talk about peace from a wide variety of political views?
Thank you. Mrs. Bentele, maybe.
Okay, now it's getting tougher. I don't regret that I stayed. So now NGO funding. I think this, gets together with the question of security. And I think, I mean, I just made this remark because about the funding, there is funding frozen from the Commission for civil society. So it's 14 million is there, but it's frozen because it's a sanction. So I don't understand why young people, civil society should be punished and sanctioned. So for me, it's not understandable. I was always against. I said this openly. I was also not voting on the Gaza resolution and also not on the suspension of the association agreement. I'm against cutting, our frameworks. That doesn't make sense for me. That's counterintuitive. Why do we have a closer look at our NGO funding? We do this in Europe, we do this in Germany, and I know Israel is doing it. I don't know if Palestine is doing it, because we talk about security, we talk about trust and confidence, because, I hope we all agree nobody wants to sponsor terror. So, I mean, what we have to make sure that there are no links over NGOs to terrorism. I think that's a very rational, reasonable argument. And since there were links, now the threshold is higher, and this is why there are more questions asked. And I can tell you, in Germany, we even discussed the question, we ask our NGOs to commit to the security, of Israel or to Jewish life, because we want to exclude to finance anti-Semitism. So, I mean, I come from Berlin, we have a huge film festival, which was, funded by taxpayers' money, which was, a huge display at the end of, anti-Semitism. And this is not what we want to do anymore. So this is why we ask more questions about NGOs. What are their aims? What is their personnel? What is their staff? I think, because there have been cases. That's the reason. But in general, I'm very much in favor of giving more money to civil society. And you will see a letter with my colleagues in the next days asking, and Mr. Stutzmann said he's in favor of that, the Commission to defreeze this money, because it's out of time now, really, to freeze this money, what I think. I didn't fully get the question about the association agreement. You want it to be suspended or not suspended? Or should we bring this back on the agenda?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I was wondering, whether it will be brought again in the agenda, the suspension of the association agreement.
Certainly not. Certainly not. It's out of question. We want to overcome this discussion, and we have a different phase now. I think so. There's no need to talk about the suspension of the agreement. To the contrary, we should talk about stronger cooperation. And if we want to express our dissatisfaction with some measures the Israeli government is doing, and I agree with it, I was always in favor of individual sanctions to certain ministers of this government. Who are those who are completely contradicting everything, international law, the efforts for peace? So I would go for individual sanctions and not for general sanctions, which are targeting scientists or civil society or young people. Doesn't make sense to me. But it's another question. But currently there is no talk about sanctions towards Israel, not at all. How do our delegations work? I think that was another question. The Iran delegation, the EU Israel delegation. Our counterparts are the counter-parliamentarians. So we talk to colleagues in the Knesset. There's also an EU Israel delegation in the Knesset, which has colleagues come from all groups. So we also have, colleagues from all groups according to the size. And this is our parliamentary diplomacy and exchange. So our peers are MPs. And we talk about the, political situation, about current laws on the NGO law also in Israel. We are very much concerned about that, because NGO funding is endangered, and also, justice reform, corruption, whatever. So we talk about, the general political business. And now it's super interesting in Israel because elections are looming. And I would be happy to be there on the election day, to see what's going to happen. But nobody knows when the elections will take place. So this is a big suspense, when they will take place. And I very much hope that one day also in Palestine we'll have elections after 18 years. I wish this for you. I wish you the same level of democracy like in Israel, even if it's a young democracy, it's an imperfect democracy. It's a democracy which is also endangered, I think, and you have to watch it. You are the citizens, and there were large demonstrations, you are the watchdog. The citizens are the watchdogs about our democracy. And I'm saying this even as a European perspective, our democracies are not guaranteed. We can see this in member states. We have seen this in Hungary. We have seen this in Poland. We have rule of law mechanisms ongoing, withholding money because, there were restrictions on the free press and so on. So, I mean, it's nothing is never assured or gained. Not even in Europe. It's a constant work. So that was the work of our delegations. The question of security, I fully agree. Confidence building measures, very concrete, very, 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 very important. If it's policing, the EU supports a police mission, of a future police mission in the Gaza Strip, and I hope this will come to light. To train them, exactly. I hope this comes to light, but I think this is the main concern, security, because people don't feel safe. And everything which can be done in terms of security is most welcome. And then you ask how a right-wing person can talk about peace. Well, I mean, one of our founders of my party was one of the founders of Europe and of free Germany. So for Germans, we are Christian Democrats, and we could perceive as more in the center. And for us, it's not a problem to talk about peace at all. But I know, and I mean, I have to be honest in this circle. I sometimes have a hard time to talk with our Likud colleagues because they move to the right. They move to the right. And I'm warning them because we cannot uphold cooperation with them anymore if they move to the right. If they meet Vox, if they meet the Front National, it's impossible for us as Christian Democrats to meet with them anymore because they are out of our spectrum. If they don't stay in the center, there's no chance for us. Then we have to orientate ourselves to new partners. But this is on a party level cooperation. It's a different issue. Yeah, we observe this closely. So with that, most welcome. I hand over to our Vice President.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Please.
Okay, of course. Okay, so I'm very pleased to welcome Pina Picierno, who is hosting us today. Thank you so much for coming despite the disruptions to your travel plan. Also, thank you for supporting basically this visit and the activists who came here. So maybe since you just joined, we would love to hear your intervention, your perspective on this project that you have been engaging with us for the last months, basically planning this very complex event, and then maybe later you can answer the last question that remains on the agenda during the Q&A. Thank you.
So thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear activists. As we conclude this forum, I want to thank all of you for your efforts. What we have witnessed here over these 2 days is not only a dialogue initiative, it is I think a political act in the deepest sense of the word. It's a time of war and polarization. Young Palestinians, Israelis, and Europeans have chosen to believe that peace is still possible, not as a slogan, but as you said, a project grounded in the principle and responsibility. And this forum was born after the tragedy of October 7, an event whose brutality destroyed any illusion that the conflict could simply be postponed or ignored. It also exposed how fragile security becomes when democracy declines, when politics turn to extremism, and when human life is reduced to a tool of power. Your response to that moment was not denial or revenge. it was engagement. Through months of work, dialogue, and of course, difficult discussion, you arrived at something rare, a shared declaration in which young Israelis and the Palestinians do not erase their differences, but refuse to let those differences justify violence. And this document called for an immediate end of the war in Gaza, for the return, of course, of all hostages, for reconstruction, and for a future in which civilians, not armed group, determine political life. And this balance is not ambiguity. It is moral seriousness. I value very much that your basic principle is that both people exist, both people have rights, and neither will disappear. That self-determination cannot mean domination. In this context, I believe your vision is bold and demanding. A federal political framework based on equality of citizens, shared institutions, freedom of movement, and a constitutional guarantee of rights and dignity. It's not an easy, of course, solution, but it's a reminder that peace is built by designing institutions that make coexistence possible. As Europeans, we should recognize something familiar in this effort. The European Union, you know, was born from ruins, hatred, and wars. It was built because a generation chose cooperation over nationalism, law over force, and shared sovereignty over absolute power. That is why this project matters to us. The European Parliament has a responsibility to support those who believe that democracy, federalism, and civil society are stronger than weapons and hatred. Your work belongs here. Your voices belongs in this house. I want to thank the young European Federalists and all the activists who carried this project forward from Ventotene to Brussels. This forum should not be remembered as a symbolic moment, but as the beginning of sustained political engagement. The responsibility now lies with all of us, institutions, policymakers, and citizens, to ensure that this work continues, that these ideas are debated seriously, and that those who choose peace are not left alone. Thank you very much for your work, for your commitment, and for this very, very strong occasion to debate this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these strong words. And while we could, I think, sit here for weeks and discuss the conflict with all of its complexities, we have to end, but I will still give our two local leaders one last chance to give concluding remarks, also so you can hear directly from them, and also to answer any remaining questions that there were during the interesting discussion. So maybe Eunice, you can start, and then Nitzan, just please keep it short. Thank you.
Okay, first, Mrs. Picierno, I want to say we're very grateful for your support and for making this happen. It means so much to us. And as you said, the FPF, Federalist Peace Forum, is not only a milestone. It's much more. And with this, with what we're doing in Brussels right now, with your presence, it's even bigger for us. It's unforgettable. I will attempt to answer Sarah's question as quick as I can. What is our strategy and our plan? What are we exactly doing? So as I've mentioned before, we have learned lessons from similar programs and similar organizations and a long history of peace building and activism. So what we're doing is making this line of work, especially in Palestine. I'm going to answer from the Palestinian perspective, and then Nitzan can answer from what future Federalists are doing. From our perspective, we want to encourage young people, and especially young professionals, to be involved in the politics and in shaping the future, the country's future, the Palestinian state, the future Palestinian state. And the first thing we did to act on that is when we brought them to the Italian Senate, for example. That was our first example. So one of our members said to me spontaneously, can I say a speech in front of these wonderful people? And I said, okay, have you prepared something? And he said, I've prepared a poem, and I want to talk about the Palestinian state. And I said, there couldn't be a better platform and a time than right now. So we want to recruit as many young Palestinian professionals as possible. We want to provide them with the tools, with the skill set that will allow them to be successful leaders who can make courageous decisions in the future for their local communities in Palestine, in the West Bank especially, and hopefully in the future, in the near future, in Gaza as well, and hopefully in the future for the state itself, in the parliament, Palestinian parliament, and also the presidency. And we have also, interestingly, we have managed to garner from our local Palestinian supporters who have the power to support what we do and to say, yes, this is great, keep going. They have actually expressed interest in, they said to us there's a political gap in the Palestinian system, the Palestinian political system, that we would love for people like you to fill in the near future, which was something that was unimaginable for me to even think about like a few years ago, for me and for my colleagues. So that's part of the strategy. And also is to make it attractive, is to make our engagement and our workshops attractive.
Visible also.
As well, of course. And to do it differently. Because nobody has this engagement with the Europeans and with the Israelis at the same time. Israelis and Palestinians don't want to do things on their own. There has to be an international angle, and especially European, especially people who think like them, especially who are our allies, European allies, so we can get things done on the ground, both on the individual level for our members and participants, for DFH Palestine, and also for the organization itself. So I want to connect that to Mrs. Bentele's mention of the issue of funding, which is, without having to emphasize, that is essential to our existence and to our sustainability. So we want to create a sustainable future. We want these people to keep working together, either on the level of the national level of DFH Palestine itself, as a national organization, and also with their peers in Europe and also their Israeli peers as well. So it's we must remember that peace building in Palestine and Israel has been almost completely dependent on US aid. on US aid. And as we know, that is no longer feasible, and that has left a huge gap. But I think this is an amazing opportunity, and it's not just an opportunity, it's actually necessary, as I mentioned earlier, for Europe to step in. Not as only as individual countries, but also as European Union to step in and fill the gap. Because our interests are connected. So that's funding, and the finances are extremely important for our sustainability, for our existence itself. And I just want to say, the European Union, my request is that European Union, by supporting us and what we do and initiatives like ours, is addressing the root causes of the conflict instead of patching the symptoms over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will do it quickly. I will do the conclusion quickly. Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Picierno, for hosting us today and supporting us also financially. Thank you very much. I will just really short, I will conclude what we are doing now, like the strategy and everything. So firstly, we're building institutions together, like we're doing, weekly meetings in our separate groups and weekly meetings with the binational groups and weekly meetings with the European groups. And we try to do once a month, like personal meetings.
You submitted an Erasmus application?
What?
You submitted an Erasmus application?
We submitted an Erasmus application. We hopefully to get it also. But even without that, we're doing like this monthly meetings, Palestinian and Israelis together. This is the most important thing that we're doing. And as Yunus said, we're trying to give hope to the young people in Israel and Palestine. We're trying to do it more, I don't know, in a more attractive way, in a more nice way, in a more that they will join. We're doing also like meetings in the evenings and parties and stuff like this, that, in that way, we have more youths to come to these initiatives. And also a lot of workshops, and again, to bring this message to the public, to the young public, and also to bring you, the policymaker, in both nationalities, but outside in Europe to support us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Maybe very, very quickly, because not only you have to leave, also we have an evening program, and we have in half an hour networking drinks with the youth parties, representatives of different youth parties in our office in Square de Meuse 25. So everyone who wants to come there, please join us there for a drink, maybe leave a donation for the project. And yes. And thank you very much for this. That it also showed that there was 3 different parties here today. We also got a lot of support from members of Renew. This is really important for us, that this is an initiative that is transpartisan and cross-partisan. And thank you very much for this. And I think we can also live with the fact that there's some disagreements on federalism, But as I was just informed, that there was also Annalisa from S&D. If you also would like to share some words with us, as you've heard about our project. And then this would be like the closing for today, and when we move on to the evening part. Thank you so much.